My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. And, wow, we got some good stuff in the news here, folks. As always, it's a Monday. Used to be Mondays were, I think, not such good news days, but now they're, because you would have the Sunday political talk stuff, and that's all they would cover on a Monday, but you never know what you're going to get on Monday now. And we're going to have Michael Jack come on here in just a little while, former FBI Special Agent GS-15 come on. And we're going to discuss the sanctuary cities. We're going to talk about Sessions coming out and saying they're going to go after these mayors and stuff. But I still don't think that they're doing what they could, which is locking these people up. I mean, the reality is crimes are happening, drugs are flowing, people are dying, women are being raped, all because of the sanctuary cities. They're allowed to flourish. So we'll talk about that and some more things. Let's get started. So let me just read something here. Thomas Weller writes, I'm reading your tweets. I always do that, or your text messages here. Hold on, let me put on Twitter here, even though I really don't want to put on Twitter, but I'm going to put it on. Let's see here. So let me go back to this real quick. Hold on. So Thomas says, I'm really starting to love this show. All the people that message are really nice and respectful too. Nothing but educated people here for the most part. Have a good night, you all from Michigan. Well, that's awesome. And Michigan's a great place. Little low on the conservative standpoint, but that's okay. I mean, they did the right thing. I think this whole conservative liberal, these platforms are starting to milk into each other a little bit. That's a great thing. It's also a little bit of a dangerous thing because already we've seen with one group of Silicon Valley people trying to start a fake middle of the road new political party called, and I'm not kidding you, called WTF, but it doesn't stand for what the blank. It stands for win something. I can't remember exactly, but it turns out it's not. There's no medium there. It's kind of like the Tea Party. It's nothing like the Tea Party, but it's like the Tea Party in that they start it saying they're going to do one thing. It just gets inundated by politicians and people like that, and then it just it goes from there. So let's see. We're going to start off. I just want to cover today. I was on Newsmax. I've been guest hosting with Bill Tucker, co-hosting with Bill Tucker on Mondays. And so I was able to go on there today, and we had a great discussion. And so I want to play part of that discussion for you all. And all right. And man, I love blocking people on Twitter. See, that's the difference. It's so funny because of what you just said there a minute ago, Thomas, is a polar opposite over on Twitter. You get people who are just nasty individuals, and they can't stop themselves. But I think a lot of these people are trolls. Let's just be honest. A lot of them are just there just to make try to get people flustered is all. And you know what? It's funny because Bill was saying the same thing today when we were on here. It never really got the sun. It seems like it never really came up outside today, and I've just kind of been out of it all day. So Hello, Kitty Kelly. And everybody else. We got okay numbers tonight. We need to get these numbers up. If you haven't shared yet on Facebook and on Twitter, retweet it, Facebook share it. Tell people they need to bring your friends over. They'll enjoy this show. Not necessarily so much just about me, but about the stuff that we're covering. And every once in a while I'll open up the Skype lines, and I still have yet to try to get a phone for everybody to call in, but I don't know. The more I watch of Newsmax, and I'm a fan of Newsmax, but they have a lot of these shows on there where they take calls. For some reason, to me, it works on the radio. Doesn't really work on television. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. So let's start out with this. This is the very first part of the show today when I was with Bill Tucker, but it's going to lead into exactly what we're talking about with these sanctuary cities. If you haven't been on here before on this show, you'll see that I use language on this television network the same way that I use the language on my show. It's one of the reasons why CNN doesn't use me anymore, and probably one of the reasons why Fox isn't interested either, because I tell the truth. So this is from Newsmax Today with Bill Tucker and myself. And then if you have comments throughout it, I'll entertain your comments.
Start with the city of Chicago, because the Department of Justice has responded to this lawsuit by Mayor Emanuel, saying it's a shame that in a city that has such enormously high homicide rates that the mayor feels like he needs to spend money fighting enforcing the law. You're a former FBI agent. I would assume you're a guy who's got some respect for the law.
So I don't know if you guys got that clearly, but Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, is going to spend money to fight the enforcement of immigration laws. That's just a strange thing. That's a criminal thing. But anyway, let's go ahead.
Why is it that cities like Chicago, New York is one, Los Angeles is another, San Francisco another, where they feel the need to say, we want nothing to do with enforcing immigration law, and you can't compel us to do it?
It's an excellent question, Bill, and I'll tell you, most people do not know the reason for this.
Now, before I give this big reason, I want you all to notice something. Look how short I always look with Bill. I got to make them fix this camera or give me a bigger chair, although Bill's a little bit taller than I am. But it makes me look extremely tiny. Anyway, go ahead.
The reason is, if you look at the majority of these mayors that are in these cities, they're communist. De Blasio, Rahm Emanuel, all these people need to realize what they think is communism is not the picture. It's not the Red Army.
I'm going with you a lot of places, but explain what you mean about communism.
These people are trying to subvert the government, and they believe in a utopia of just like Saul Alinsky, just the man that mentored Hillary Clinton. These people believe, Bill, that our Constitution and the way our government is right now and the freedoms that we have are not enough to make this country great. They literally believe in a Marxist ideology of how this country should be. And so they allow, I know this sounds off the top, but the more I look into this from an investigative standpoint and I look at all these people and the dots that connect all of them, they all have an ideology of getting rid of borders. It's a globalist ideology, and that's the difference between communism now versus before, is that it's really a globalist ideology. They believe in subverting this country through getting rid of borders, dividing the people up. That's why we have so many issues in all of these different states or these large cities even, where this sanctuary type mindset occurs. We have more killings, we have more division, we have more problems with cops, more drugs, no guns, nobody's allowed to carry guns, so your constitutional rights are being void. There is a connection between all these people, and it goes far beyond just Rahm Emanuel, de Blasio. This is a cycle of people that are coming into these different cities, and I'll tell you the best thing that Sessions or Rosenstein could do, lock them up. Lock up these mayors for obstruction of justice and for literally, it's no different than if you had a safe house for illegal aliens in your house and they were committing crimes like selling drugs, raping people, murder. You'd go to jail for accessory to crime. Why aren't these people?
I don't know, but it amazes me because in Chicago, just to stay on that for 1 second, the people who are familiar with the network know I've played this sound a lot, and we don't have it today, but the superintendent of the city of Chicago, police superintendent, has said We know what the problem is. We know who are killing all these people. He said, but the problem is every time I arrest them, they are out of jail before I can even finish booking them. And if we want to be serious, you want me to end the violence in this city? Let me go arrest them and let me put them in jail. But they won't do that. It's, you know, I look at a city like Chicago, and I think the Justice Department's response is interesting. Why are you spending money suing us? Why don't you go spend your money locking up the people that are killing the people who live in your city? It's just amazing.
Right, and you know, it's very similar to the gun issue in places like Chicago, where it's black on black crime is out of control. There's more killings over there than there's in the Middle East in some right. places. If they gave the ability for the good citizens, the law-abiding citizens, to have their rights to arm themselves, I can guarantee you that the number of killings would actually go down. At first, there'd be a lot of bad people that would be getting killed, but it would go down because we've shown through statistics wherever cities allow their people to be armed, the crime rate is lower. And it's the same thing with the immigration. Wherever you have these sanctuary cities and they just allow anybody to come in and they harbor them, crime goes up, rape goes up, drug dealing goes up. All these things go up. Every drug case I ever worked in the FBI ended up going to two places. We chased it, and it either went to Canada or went to Mexico.
That's amazing.
And that's where we're bringing it in.
Yeah, my favorite gun group, by the way, lately has been Black.
All right. There you go, folks. So, man, while I'm doing that, I'm sitting here just blocking people on Twitter one after another because what I'm hearing is what I'm finding, folks. It's not even worth entertaining them on Twitter here. Just get rid of them and block them because it doesn't really do any good. So here, before I go into great detail, well, let me cover this, and then I want to loop it back into what we were supposed to do last Friday, but just didn't happen properly. It happened with some of the people. We'll go into that in just another. As far as this sanctuary city stuff goes, I think I've made it clear over and over again that Rahm Emanuel and these individuals should be locked up. Sessions, I don't understand. Here's the whole thing, the whole premise of what I'm on in this show tonight is how the law is put forth, and depending on who you are and what class you come from, and what your career field is, you're treated with kid gloves on one side and you're completely slammed on the other. I've said, you know, as far as going to jail, I've said it a million times on here that if I ran a safe house for illegal aliens and somebody went out and murdered somebody that was living in my house, or they were dealing dope and they got caught, it would come back to me and I would go to jail. Well, that's not the case with these sanctuary cities. They're not just harboring one or two people. They're harboring thousands of people. And in the case of San Francisco, get this, they're going to pay Pedro Figueroa. He's from El Salvador. He's been illegal here for 10 years. He got arrested. And then when he was by San Francisco police, and then when he was leaving the police department, they contacted ICE, and ICE took them, and I don't know if they deported him or what, but anyway, he filed a lawsuit against San Francisco, and San Francisco's paying him $190,000. And he kept saying the whole time, I don't know why I became a victim. Why was I victimized? Why was he victimized? This is the nonsense, folks, that we're putting up with that comes from the left. Man, I don't know what happened to Twitter. My numbers just, well, there they go. They went back up a little bit, but they just dropped. But how is this possible that the taxpayers in that city are okay with that? Even if you're a liberal person, you should start seeing this as a little odd. There's no rule of law in these places. There's no, but yet at the same time, they limit your constitutional rights. They're going to give this guy $190,000. Do you know how many children, just in San Francisco alone, that are starving? Do you know how many elderly people are going to die because they just didn't get enough to eat in San Francisco. Look at the homeless problem in San Francisco. That $190,000 could have gone a tremendously long ways, but yet they're going to give it to some guy who's been here illegally for 10 years. Look, 10 years. He wrote it out. You know, he got caught. He should be deported, and then if he comes back, then he should be locked up. And here's what I think we should do, since they want to talk about all these migrant jobs that are not going to be filled if we get rid of these criminals. Here's what I suggest that we do. We build a huge federal penitentiary somewhere in California where evidently things are ripe and grow well, and we take all the illegals. Instead of deporting them, here's what we do. We put them in a federal maximum security prison that we build out there where they can, or even better yet, I said this before, once we get the wall built, just build it on the wall, have the back door go straight into Mexico, wherever we build it. What they do is they bring them specifically in, where in one prison they make license plates. Here what they're going to be doing is they're going to be growing food. If they're such good at migrant work and the country can't make it without them, then the federal government can start recouping some of this money from our deficit and growing food, feeding the homeless. Instead of welfare, where they go in and, like today, I go down to the grocery store and it's completely clogged because people are getting their welfare checks. And I guarantee you can check in 2 years, same people are going to be down there at the first of the month getting their food with their welfare checks. Why don't we just have migrant workers that come over here illegally? They go spend time in the federal prison where they can do all the migrant work that they want. If that's what they want to do, if that's what their hearts are set on, let them do this migrant work out there. Let the government grow this food and use that food to feed people that are on temporarily, this if I was a perfect world, temporarily on welfare. And give them, you know, give the people corn and spinach and salads and heck, you could even have a dairy farm ran by these people. Hey, you're teaching them a skill as well. And then you kick their ass right out of the country and tell them, you know, look, you know, now it's a one-shot deal. You want to apply to come back over, you have to go through the same process. If we catch you again, now what you're going to do is you're not going to come back over to migrant work over here, you know, growing stuff. You're going to help build the wall. You're going to, I don't know, whatever else you could do. It's not going to be easy. And then the other thing about these prisons, I don't understand why we allow gangs to flourish in prison. Why is that even a thing? You ever seen the prisons in Russia? They don't play that game. Everything in this country is so backwards now that it is unbelievable. We can't we can't get anything done. They use the same language as the trolls on Twitter, the trolls on LinkedIn now. Yeah, LinkedIn. They use the same language as Blumenthal. Blumenthal, who Trump has been tweeting about all day, or last night or something like that. Richard Blumenthal. Yeah, and Sidney Blumenthal, I think, is a relative, but those Blumenthals are just as bad as the Clintons. They're all corrupt. Blumenthal is a congressman, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But he basically was a Marine during Vietnam, but he never deployed. He had 5 deferments not to deploy, and he was a reservist. But yet in 2008, he was caught when he was running for an election. He was caught making it sound like he was one of those people that were over there deployed, and when he came back from Vietnam, he got spat upon and all this stuff. Senator, yeah, okay. So Senator Blumenthal got caught in that lie. Now, he was a Marine. I guess he went through, he was a sergeant. So he went through boot camp. But like I've said before, you know, just because somebody's a veteran doesn't mean that they're Superman. It doesn't mean that they're the Holy Father. It means that they served their country, or they raised their right hand. But in the case of people like Blumenthal, you know, he deferred going and doing what his job was. And so, yeah, he's the Brian Williams of politics. Yeah. So he elaborated on it to make himself look better when he was speaking in front of a group of veterans, maybe even. I don't remember exactly who it was. Trump's been going after this guy, and these are the code words that he was using was bullying. He said bullying won't work, and he was saying that to Trump. Whenever, and that's why I like to use this when these trolls come after me. You call them bullies because the reality is they do bully. Maxine Waters is a bully. Nancy Pelosi is a bully. Paul Ryan is a pushover and an organized crime member. John McCain is both a bully and a worm. And so you have all these types of people in Washington, D.C., but the leftists in this country and around the globe really are bullies. That's their tactics. But they love to accuse other people of it. Rahm Emanuel is a bully. Rahm Emanuel continuously challenges. Oh gosh, let's see here. Boom. Rahm Emanuel continuously bullies not only the president and Jeff Sessions, but he also bullies the people in his own city. Like I said on there, if they gave these people the ability, the right people, the good people, the ability to carry weapons like the Constitution says they would be able to, you might have a spike in the people that get killed, but there's going to, a lot of those people are going to be the bad people, and then as statistics show, things are going to start to even out, and people are going to realize we can't get away with stuff like we used to here because they're armed. That's one of the reasons why the founding fathers allowed them to be armed, allowed us to be armed, because we can't just depend on the country and the law enforcement and the authorities to be at our every beck and call and to rescue us every time something goes wrong. That's not the case. You don't just have weapons so that you can eat. You have weapons so you can protect yourself. I am focused. I'm just out of it today. But a mediator would be great. So let's do this. I'm going to call Michael Jack, and I'm going to have him come on. And we're going to talk a little bit about the sanctuary cities. And then we're also going to cover something that I hope you don't tune out for. I've had it, folks, with this whole bias thing, and this is what I've kind of been leading up to here with the laws. Leakers versus the press, and media versus the advertisers. Leakers and media get away with a tremendous amount of stuff. They get away with, now I'm breaking up media and the press. I mean, when I say the press, I'm talking about journalists that take the information from the leakers. And when I talk about media, I'm talking about Fox News, CNN, so on and so, MSNBC, so on and so forth. Here's my theory, folks. You want to get at the leakers? You want to stop the leaks? Start putting the press in jail for taking stolen information. You want to get the media to stop with this leftist, communist, socialist, shiny millennial mindset where there's nothing on anymore. You can't even get real information. Go after the advertisers. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But let me reach out to Michael Jack now. And stand by 1 second. I got to pull him up here. Stand by. Yes, call. How many times I got to hit something on this freaking phone? All right, hold on.
I got you.
All right, buddy.
Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay, we're there.
So,
Hold on a second. I'm getting.
You got reverb.
Yeah, at the very least reverb. All right, bud. What's up?
So the sanctuary city thing. I think I may have asked you this question before, or we got close to it. And by the way, I apologize because I didn't call you. I know I was supposed to call you after the show. I always get busy after the show, and people try to email me or text me or do all these different things. I get busy right afterwards. So
that's all right.
So with these sanctuary cities, would it be possible for the Attorney General to start arresting these mayors as being obstructing justice and for being knowing participants in a criminal ring of aiding and abetting felons that are committing murders and dealing drugs and all this stuff?
I don't know if you could arrest them.
But if they,
I'm not familiar enough with that. I know the way the agreement that they sign and the way the law is written for the federal government to give all kinds of grants, including those for law enforcement to cities, states, whatever. When it comes to ICE and all that, they have to, like law enforcement, when they sign that agreement, they're basically saying, hey, ICE, in the agreement it says ICE can have unfettered access to the jails, to the police department, that there has to be a 48-hour notice before they let somebody go that has an ICE hold on them. I mean, there's a whole long list of things, and if they violate any of that, the feds aren't obligated to send them any money.
Well, but besides this thing that we're talking about, this agreement, I'm just talking about, for instance, if I was harboring illegal aliens, full well knowing that some of them were killing people, and law enforcement got a hold of that, I know for a fact that the feds could go in and arrest the person that was harboring those people. And if any of them, here's the other thing that we got to realize, if any of these illegals were trafficked over state lines for prostitution, that's Mann Act. So let's say some of these illegals, which we know they are, they come in, they're in Chicago, they're doing prostitution. Now you have Mann Act added onto that they're allowing to happen and preventing law enforcement from doing their job of going after these people. Why are they not being considered to be aiding and abetting these criminals and obstructing justice? Because these are federal cases. I can't understand. Am I completely wrong there?
No, a lot of what you just mentioned are federal crimes, but it's up to the feds to be able to bring that through a grand jury or whatever, right? If they're committing murders and the local police know these people are committing murders and are not doing anything about it, God, heaven help them. I mean, they're leaving themselves wide open for criminal, for civil probably being the worst, because that's they're violating it.
But they're going to say that the mayors are going to say they're so far removed from this that they can't be held in the same light. But the fact is, they're going on TV and saying we are going to allow these people here.
The problem with that, I mean, one thing is to go on TV and say all that, but the other is if they sign some sort of documentation, like an order to the police chief saying we are going to be a sanctuary city and you are not going to, ordering him not to cooperate and right on down the line, they are, at that point in time, they are absolutely responsible.
Right.
And it would sure be, brand new case law. I don't, it'd be up to the United States Attorney to decide whether they want to go with it in that district or not. And I would love to see it happen. I would absolutely, like somebody like Rob Emanuel, I would love to see the United States Attorney for that district up there, say, you know what, bud, I've had about enough of you, and convene a grand jury, and get all the evidence, indict him, and let's go to court. Let's take it to the Supreme Court if we have to. But,
I don't know why they haven't at least considered that, man. I think you put a couple of these people in jail, it would shock some of the others. Here's the whole thing I'm getting at on this is that, and I want to get your take on this. What got me onto it is I keep hearing it's like there's different laws for different people. We know with the Clinton whole thing, they're treated completely different. A lot of these politicians, Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton meeting on the tarmac, that type of stuff, if that was just a mob guy and a district attorney from New York City and they got caught meeting on a plane, I mean, that district attorney would have been hauled in and probably charged with obstruction of justice for meeting with somebody like that. If it was done in a certain way, nothing happens to them. And then when we look at leakers, and the information that they steal and like these phone conversations that the president's having with other foreign governments. And you got to remember, it's America talking to a foreign government. It's not just the president, it's America talking to another government. And those are leaked. Right. And the press, quote unquote, journalists take this information and they make it public. They're being exonerated from any penalty of taking stolen property from the United States government. Whereas if I went in and took a Jeep, or they don't have Jeeps anymore, but took a Humvee off of base, or somebody else took it and then gave it to me, I'd go to jail for receiving stolen government property. So
you're right.
Am I confused
that is
here?
Government. Those conversations, that is government property, and there should be the leakers should be hammered for that. They're not, as far as I know, there's nothing under the whistleblower law that covers that.
Right.
And so if they find out who the leaker is, they should, on for those things, they should hammer him. The Bureau should be going after him. It's public corruption. They should be going after him big time. All right. The other stuff, like the tarmac thing, you got to look at when all that went down and who was the director when that went down, right? Comey. Yeah. And was there, where there was this big question mark about Trump? Is he going to get elected? Is he not going to get elected? This investigation into Hillary. Nobody knew who was going to be the next boss.
Right.
Nobody knew who was going to be running Congress, whether it's going to be a bunch of new people that are going to be aligning with Trump, or was it going to be the old guard from both sides of the aisle. And the one thing you gotta bear in mind when you get into this stuff is that the Bureau would love to go out and throw people in jail. Corruption, public corruption especially. I hate public corruption,
mm-hmm.
and you probably do too. And every other street agent is the same way. We don't like dirty politicians. We'd like to hammer them and throw them in jail. They're as bad as pedophiles.
Yeah, because they're the ones that allow the crime to happen, not just doing it.
Here's the problem. Who holds the purse strings in the federal government?
Well, Congress is supposed to.
The House of Representatives.
Yeah.
So if you go after a bunch of politicians, Washington politicians, in a public corruption matters, and you start indicting them and you start sending them to jail, what's going to happen to your next budget?
Yeah.
You gotta figure out, we got all this terrorism stuff we need to do and this national security stuff we need to do, and it would sure be nice to have a few hundred more agents to help us do this, but Congress is just not real happy with us right now because we keep throwing all their friends in jail.
But staying back on this question, though, that I have is...
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, because I'm really puzzled by this. Hillary Clinton can sit in front of Congress for like 12 hours and pretty much just be the truth. It didn't even matter if the truth came out. Nothing was going to happen to him. James Comey sat in front of Congress and said that he leaked information. Said that he leaked it. And even now that they're going after leakers, there's no mention of Comey being punished for leaking government information. And I mean, does it not puzzle you now that you're out of the Bureau, where you sit back and you say, how can we enforce these laws on regular civilians, but politicians and the media are immune from it?
Well, I think the most encouraging thing I've heard in the last week or so is when, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House, I think,
mm-hmm.
Started calling for a special counsel to look into all that. That is encouraging to me. Should the Bureau be doing it? Should there be cases open? I don't know that there isn't cases open, and they're probably not going to say.
Yeah.
You know how the Bureau is about letting out, ongoing investigations. They don't go around talking about, they don't go around making announcements. Okay, we're going to, do this or do that with Hillary Clinton,
except for Comey.
Yeah, yeah, really. And I'm not so sure that. I try and take the patient side to this. I'm not so sure that in the next 2 or 3 months we're going to see a few things happening, all the way up to maybe Obama. Because the push is now getting on. people are tired of this phony Russian thing.
Yeah.
And all the crap that's coming out of that. You know, they made a big deal out of those juries, grand juries. But the only reason they opened those cases in the grand jury is for the subpoena power. You know, just so they could go out and have that extra power to get documents.
I just can't understand
testimony.
Yeah. I am still a little worried about Mueller. See, I mean, you make it sound hopeful, but I have no hope when it comes to this stuff in government because I just see two political parties. There, I don't see any except for now the presidency. We now have, in my view, we now have two branches of government. We have the Republicans and Democrats, and we have the president. We don't really have a Congress and a Senate. It's not like they disagree. They only disagree by party lines. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish it.
No, and I think that's a problem is that we don't have the three branches. They one has the power of the purse, and they all have their own individual little things that they do. But overall, you can't go after the system because the system is owns all three branches, and that's a problem.
Yes and no. I mean, the thing about the system, though, is it can be changed. It's just that
how?
People don't get involved by getting involved.
But that's see,
there are so many people that are Democrats and Republicans both that just vote because they're an RRD, and they really don't pay any attention to what's going on. And what you're doing and other people like you are doing is they're starting to get people to wake up. It's what I do every day out here. In my job with the party is talk to people and say, look, it's not going the way it should be going. We're down here in the weeds arguing about this little issue or that little issue. We need to step back and take a look at what our core principles are and rally around those.
Right.
And our core principles are not what's happening. Not at all. And so it's a matter of waking people up, but there's just so much going on. Every tweet, everything that shows up on Facebook, everything that's in the news gets, blasted.
Right.
People just get worn out and they just shut it off, and they don't even listen to it anymore.
So here's what I experimented with on Friday. I don't know if you saw this or not, but so I wanted to get the CQRF, the Constitutional Quick Reaction Force. So I just came up with this idea on the fly. Maybe it's because I already had one beer in me when we started off Friday night.
I was going to ask you how much alcohol was in you when you did that.
I had one, but however, I think I'm on to something here because exactly what you're talking about. People get overwhelmed. They show up to this show every night, and everybody partakes in this, and the conversation is great. But the problem is that just like the other night, like 6 or 8 people, that's all that out of the 100 and some people. And I think that at the peak of that, when I said that, there's like 200 people watching on all 3 of these different platforms. And, like 8 people showed up. That's it. Now, I tried after some of these cops got killed several years ago, I tried to get a group of people together, or I put it on Facebook. This is before I was really big in doing this stuff. And I was like, we got to go march on the mayor's mansion. And we here in New York City, he's not supporting the cops. And, I had all these cop friends on Facebook. And I tend to overreact sometimes when I get offended by stuff. But all these people are saying, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it on a Sunday so that everybody can show up. So I was promoting it for like a month. And I go down there and nobody showed up. Not one single person. So when I did this Friday, I had a feeling it was going to be that way. And I don't want to do what I did last time because I went on Facebook and I literally deleted every single person that said they were going to be there and didn't show up. I deleted all my cop friends. I deleted all these people off Facebook. I was like, I'm not going to play this game. I'm real, and I'm not just going to, get mad and sit on my couch and hem and haw. Friday was the same thing, but I'm not going to delete people. What I think is exactly what you're saying. Is the only thing that's going to fix this is going to be the people, for one, recognizing these problems, seeking out true authorities that understand what's going on, and coming together to stand up against these government officials to put pressure on them. And that's where I started looking at this. So the same way I was looking at this constitutional quick reaction force online to go after these trolls and stuff, I think that the people should start going after the advertisers for the media and for the press, and saying, if your paper or if your online publication takes stolen property from the government, we are not going to buy your product anymore. Now, I know people have said, if you don't agree with what this person says or that person says, I know Sean Hannity, who I'm on his show a lot, he doesn't like the protesting against advertisers, but this is different. This is if they take stolen property, or if they're putting lies out there. I think that the American people should get together, even if it's in small groups, but you have a lot of small groups, and say, we're not going to buy your product anymore. We're not going to pump it up. And I think you might start to see a little bit of a change in the media. And when you see a change in the media, you're going to see a change in politics, because politicians are just like celebrities. They need the media, just like celebrities need the paparazzi. The only difference is that the RNC and the DNC kind of own the media, whereas celebrities don't own the paparazzi. But anyway.
Well, there's a couple things that came to mind while you were saying it. One is that, boycotts have typically had, somewhat minimal effect, but they've had some effect. The one most recent that I can think of that actually had effect is when Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem, and that kind of started spreading around the NFL. And their viewership dropped, 8 or 10% last year, which equates to a lot of money.
Right.
A lot of money. And so a lot of the NFL folks started sitting up and taking notice about that. And you notice that Colin Kaepernick does not have a job, and nobody's looking for him. So, that kind of gets out in a roundabout sort of way. The other thing is, we've had these changes that have come along over the years in our government, from going back to the way, the way the Constitution was originally drafted and passed and all that. The progressives have managed to get changes in the Constitution that have really, over the last 120 years or so, really caused a lot of problems, and really kind of restricted our ability to be able to do some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular was the passing of the 16th and 17th Amendment. That was the biggest blow to states' rights and individual rights that's happened since the Constitution was written. Those mistakes need to get fixed. And the other thing you were talking about the information that was stolen. I think if information is stolen and given to a newspaper and it's classified at any level, and the paper, I think they should be prosecuted for that. And I think whoever that was that took that information should be in Supermax.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. That costs people lives. It costs the country a lot of money, but it costs people lives.
Yeah.
Now, there's sensitive information like the phone calls that the president made. Nothing in there was classified, but it was sensitive. And there should be penalties for that too, and there should be some way of getting recourse against people that propagate that. Like the New York Times or the Post or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be in there someplace. I don't believe the media should get carte blanche. I think they should have a lot of latitude. We do need to have a good, solid, free press, but not when it's going to hurt the entire nation.
Right.
And then there's just embarrassing stuff that gets leaked out, and I don't know what to do about that. That embarrassing stuff usually has to do with the actions of an individual, and if you choose to do something that's going to end up being embarrassing, if it gets out to everybody, that's your problem.
Yeah. I'm seeing a bunch of people in here say that LinkedIn is because of their jobs. They can't go and do stuff on there. I get it. I get that. But just remember this, folks. There will be a day and age, if this country doesn't get its act together, where you're not going to be working. You're not going to be working for yourself, and or it may be your kids. Either way, the way things are going now, more and more people are becoming dependent. They're getting on welfare because the government will just pay for stuff. And you're going to have to take a stand eventually. So you either create a fake profile and go on and battle these people, or you should just resign yourself to being a slave. Because even though you're working right now, and I talk about World War II a lot, and how the Jewish culture, if you ever seen that movie, The Pianist, how there were tons of signals that things were going wrong, and the German people didn't. Dr. Stanley Milgram did a study on this to show why people would have followed somebody like Hitler, and the German people didn't do anything about it. The Jews, I don't know if they did. The culture there just didn't allow them to see it. Because they're a little bit more of a, when I say closed off culture, I've had somebody get mad at me for using that kind of term, but the Jewish community they're kind of an enclosed, not closed off, but an enclosed community. They are self-sufficient, and they're very close related with their families and their communities. And maybe they just didn't see it, but it snuck up on them, and before they knew it, they were getting hoarded onto trains. And I'm sure if you would ask anybody 25 years before that happened, do you think this could ever happen? They would have said no. They would have said, I'm not getting involved in that argument. But if we don't start doing something and start uniting some way, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and it's going to come down very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
actually, a lot of what happened during that time period, and even what's happening now, if you take a look at the way we were, at the turn of the century versus where we're at now, it's like the frog in the boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
If you put a frog in water and you start gradually, raising the heat, he'll sit there and get used to it until he dies. And that's what's happening in our culture, in our country right now, is that we're so used to being the most overregulated nation in the world that it's like, oh, okay, well, it's okay. And it's not. Yet people come here from other countries and they see all the regulations we have, and they just can't believe it.
Yeah.
Those regulations take away our liberty, and we just give it up. We just give it up and give it up. And, it's time to wake up.
Well, and I see,
absolutely time to wake up.
I also see several people in here saying that, they do go online, they do battle. But here's the thing. Look, I don't care so much about LinkedIn last week. I know people have a heartburn with LinkedIn. But the people should be uniting together. Like I said, you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, and there you see somebody being attacked, or you see some trolls that are saying stuff that's not true. We should be going after them by the hundreds, let alone 20. 20 people, couldn't even get 20 people to get involved in this last week. So if we picked out, the Washington Post or Mediaite, and we go on and they do some kind of stupid story on Mediaite, and we all go on their little chat thing, and we just start slamming them with truth. That's what I'm talking about. It didn't have to be LinkedIn. We just started there because this was happening. But I don't have faith. I don't have faith in the American people. I think there are good people that want to do stuff, but I think the majority of people, going outside of their comfort zone is just asking too much.
Yeah, you got to find something that they can do where they don't have to get outside their comfort zone very much. Whether it's like donating $10 a month or something like that. Let me tell you a similar story. I'm the state director for Americans for Fair Taxation in the state of Nevada, and we sponsored the Fair Tax Act that's in Congress, H.R. 25, and I think this time around in the Senate it's 116. That bill's been there for a long time. Mike Pence was a co-sponsor of that bill. Right now there's about 80 co-sponsors of that bill in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've told you before, it would be absolutely wonderful for the country if that bill were to pass. However, there's half of the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. would lose their job. So it's up against a real fight. But the point I was going to make is that there's a couple million or more of us who belong to this organization across the country. And at one point in time, a few months ago, we were trying to organize a little protest in front of Trump Tower in New York City. And there was people from all over the East Coast who saying, yeah, we'll drive over there. We'll be part of it. We'll be part of it. 14 people showed up.
Right.
But, you know, if you know anything about network marketing companies, you invite 100 people to come to your meeting, and if 14 or 20 of them or whatever of them show up, you had a good meeting. It's a numbers game.
Right.
You just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And gradually your numbers will grow, and amongst those numbers will be stars that'll come out, and they'll start doing the same thing. And your network will grow. Like right now, if people don't want to be part of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, I'd say go to fairtax.org and look at that and just become part of that cause.
Right.
Because it is probably the best piece of legislation in Congress right now.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like that, for instance, people can go on and do that. And again, Roxanne, I'm not attacking you personally on this. When I say she's getting angry, when I say out of your comfort zone, I'm not talking about the nightly stuff of people taking up and posting things and doing whatever you do. I'm talking about the comfort zone of working together. And it takes people. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about numbers here. And just like Michael Jack is talking about this fair tax. What is it again? How do they sign up for that?
Just go to fairtax.org.
Okay.
Read about it. Sign up.
So that's what I'm talking about. If we had, if all 106 people that are watching this tonight went and did that, that'd be huge. That'd be a big night for them. So
that would be great for them.
So that is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. If you have different groups where people work together combating this stuff, you say, okay, we got 20 people on our messenger, and so somebody puts out, here's the address, John, who was saying that just a second ago, John Hauser, I think you were saying there a second ago, Heiser, about everybody has their own strengths. So some people are just really good at grabbing, like I have somebody who does a lot of research for me. They're just so good at grabbing the right stuff and putting it up there. I'm good at getting a briefing and explaining it. So somebody who's good at grabbing those different things and researching this stuff and saying, I think we should all get involved in this. I think we should put our name on this. And then 20 people do that. They tell another 20 people, they tell their friends. Before you know it, you got 100, 200, 300 people that are getting involved in this stuff. And that's how this works. That's why the left is so good at what they do, because they are literally trained to do this throughout college.
You're building a network, and that's how you succeed, is building the network. You need somebody in your organization that's going to be keeping track of the people who want to be part of that network.
Yeah. Yeah, and tomorrow, if you're available, I'm going to have Norma on here, and she's going to talk about something that will scare the daylights out of people. I've been holding this off for a little bit, but I think tomorrow will be a good time to talk about I forgot what it was called, Norma. You'll have to remind me. And you'd be very interested in this, Michael Jack. I'll give Norma a second. She'll type it in. But it's basically this movement where they're trying to slowly spread this across the country, where you're giving up property lines and you're giving up all these different. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Norma, if you want to, Vibrant. It was called Vibrant USA, but I think now it's Vibrant Ohio, and it's a scary activist linked thing. So look that up if you can. I'll have Norma on tomorrow. Let's see, or maybe so I'll have Norma on tomorrow or the next, as soon as I can get her on. Well, that's it. You got anything else, buddy?
Well, I could go on and talk for hours, but I know you got a limited time, and you got to go to bed, have something to eat, and feed Rocco. So.
I don't go to bed till 4 or 5, 6 in the morning. Tonight I got to finish my edits. That's it. I'm done with this book. I got to finish these edits.
And I'm working on putting together, the video side of being able to, some stuff that I want to do here. Sometime I'd like to talk to you about what I would need to have so that you and I could do video stuff together, if you want.
Yeah, no. Well, we could talk about that offline. I'm now that I have this faster computer, I haven't done a Skype call, and I need to do that and test it out and see, because when I did that before on my old laptop over here, this poor old thing, it would lag. And so it messed the whole show up. So I'm going to try that again. I had it set up for Dave Robinson, and then we'll see if that'll work. If that happens, that'll throw a whole new dynamic into this, because if anybody wants to be on the show, they can. If I have it set up where you can Skype in, and people can see you while you're talking. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
As far as you doing your own show, I can sit and talk with you about that. I think it's something that we should have multiples of these, so people can just turn the TV off.
Well, that's one of the things we're doing and setting up some of the ways to get the word out with the party out here. Is those types of broadcasts? A couple times a week we talk about things, and have certain people on. But I remember you've done that before with other guys at shows, and you just came up split screen and went to work.
Now Ron Bellin does that, and he uses another program for that, and I forget the name of it, but I didn't like that program because I can't do my entry. I can't do all my little sound bites and do all that stuff. Yeah, it's not a real show, I don't think, when you're just popping up and just interviewing somebody. So.
Yeah, you got to be able to do the brand, man. You got to have the brand out there.
Yeah,
right?
I know it's coming. You got to get, and I do need to turn this into a podcast. For some reason, I've always shied away from podcasts because everybody else is doing them, but now everybody's starting to do this, so I might as well do a podcast, I guess.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, it'll just be this show, just rebroadcast on a podcast. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go, brother,
right.
and have a good night, and thank you very much as always.
Thank you.
You got it.
Have a good one.
Michael Jack, everybody. FBI special agent, and you can find him at Michael Jack on Twitter, I believe is how you get him. That's him right here. Watch this. Poof. There he goes. He's gone. Just like that. So, what do you think about I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Right after this show, I'm going to put on Twitter and on Facebook the question, what do you think about what do you think about going after advertisers to stop the leakers, or saying you're not going to watch the networks anymore like they did the NFL with Colin Kaepernick, but when they continuously have these leakers that you put the pressure on them? Do you think it will work? Do you not think it will work? Do you have other ideas? And I think that's about it for the night. Now, before we drop in numbers, let's do this, okay? The GoFundMe page, it just came up right there. Look at that. Whew. August is already in full swing, and what threw me off on not going on the road was basically because I got this book deal, and so I had to write the book. Basically, I had about a third of it done. I had to finish that. All right, here's another guy. Man, these people are all over the place. I didn't know that the book deal was coming. The book deal came, so I had to work on that. I had to get that done. But I'm thinking somewhere around the end of this month, possibly, I'll be able to go out on the road and hopefully get down to Texas, back to Arkansas, and some other places. So we're going to have a pledge drive here. I was talking to somebody that partakes in this show quite often, and they suggested that because I'm not comfortable, as I told everybody, I'm not comfortable asking or trying to get donations. I'm not comfortable with it. But what has pushed me forward in doing this is that I believe in what we're doing. I believe in this unity. I believe in that we are onto something here. This just isn't an informative show. Like I think Thomas came on earlier, noticed that coming on this show every night, that the people are educated and they're smart, and it's slowly growing, whereas other people have like thousands of views, of participants every show. I don't know what I have to do to get this show to where we have thousands of people, but what I can do is take the show back out on the road towards the end of August and September. So if we had 100 people that would pledge to going on to GoFundMe every month and donating $30 a month, we'd be able to raise about $3,000 a month, and that would keep me on the road, on and off the road, where I could go out and come back and go out and come back. I still have to get the brakes done on the truck, on the Suburban. There's some, hopefully that's the only thing that's going wrong on that Suburban. I've got so many miles on it now, that we're going to need donations if we want to keep this going. If not, again, listen, I don't know how long this is going to last, and I'm all for it and keeping it going. I think we're onto something, but, that's the way it is. But this is all listener funded. All the equipment that I have has been donated by listeners, with the exception of my regular communication stuff, and it is the people that have gotten to know each other through this show, the seeds that have been grown and planted, the fact that I'm able to go and do these free speeches at places, it has made a difference. I mean, you can ask Norma. Norma will tell you when we have her on. She's good to speak about that. I mean, it is making a difference because there's a lot of groups that aren't going to get to have a speaker come to them that knows the truth, or somebody with a name. I went to their town there in Ohio. They had their paper come down there. Their paper did a story because Norma got a hold of them, said I was going to be speaking there, and that pushed it out even further. So there's a progression to the way that this works. These nightly shows are informative, but there's more to this than just me coming on here and talking. It's also the fact that you all are coming on here and getting to know each other so good to the point where people are showing up in Washington, D.C. to meet each other for a rally. People are, they're organizing with me to go after trolls. They're sponsoring me to come out there and give speeches or do my show. I mean, it's small, but nobody else is doing this, and we can make it big. I don't want to get disheartened after last Friday. I take this stuff personal because listen, I don't want to sit here and tell people, hey, send in money, go to the GoFundMe page. I wish I had enough money to do this all myself. I don't come from money, and I've been serving this country for in different ways for 20 years. So it's going to take a team effort. If we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to grow the team. That's just the way it is. So we'll see. We'll see. With your support, and if we can get enough people chiming in on that, I think we would be able to do it and keep it going and sustain it, and then hopefully get a radio show, maybe get on television. We'll see. Well, I'd love to be at a Barnes & Noble for a future signing. But here, that reminds me, I don't know when the book is going to be up for pre-sales, but that's the other thing. We are going to have to push this over the top. If we can get this book on the New York Times bestseller list and the Amazon bestseller list, we got to get about 7,000 pre-sales. If we can do that, folks, man, I'm telling you, it's going to change everything. I hope. Because if we can, and this book is going to help people tremendously all around the world, I believe. So I don't know. I don't know what more I can say. I could stay here all night and just start blocking people on Twitter. Somebody asked, Honey Badger asks, would I possibly run for office in the future? I don't know, because here's the way I look at running for office. Maybe sheriff. I know that where my mom lives in Arkansas, there's a position for sheriff opening up. That would be something I would consider. But how do you order my book? When it comes out on Amazon, I'll let everybody know on this show, and then you guys will know how to order it, pre-order it. Running for office, though, if I ran for congressman, what would it do? What is one person going to do in Congress and even in the Senate? You know, if you had 50 people and you did some kind of covert takeover of the Senate by going and getting yourself elected by any means possible, you literally could get in there and make a difference. You really could make a difference, especially in the Senate. But I don't know what one person can do. I don't know. Yeah, and so if I got elected and I went in there, I guarantee you one thing, there'd be a lot of people that don't like me. I'm okay with that, but it didn't seem to work out well at CNN, and Fox News doesn't have me on anymore because I tell the truth and I don't hold back. So, sorry, I had to wake Rico up over there. So Rico has a ultrasound tomorrow, and we'll find out if there's anything to be worried about there. His liver values were off. The rest of his blood work is great. So we're not exactly sure what's going on with him, but I'll let everybody know tomorrow after that. And I guess that's about it. And it makes me feel good that you guys are telling me I'm a strong voice and don't give up. But I need you all. I need you all to take this show over the top. We either stand together and prove to the media that we're just as powerful as they are by building, I know it sounds ridiculous, but by building this show and spreading this word and getting people focused on working together. And if we build this show up to where it's huge and the numbers are huge, we get some money flow coming into the GoFundMe page where we can go and we can actually have bigger shows on the road. We're going to see a difference, and we're going to show them that the people can do this on their own. Right now, you got people spending $1 billion to create another Fox News. You got Fox News taken over by the Murdoch brothers, and they're destroying that. Eric Bolling is going to be gone permanently now, I'm predicting. The only person left there really that's conservative is Sean Hannity. Who knows what's going to happen there? Fox is going to turn into a CNN light. So you'll have CNN, MSNBC. You'll have MSNBC on the far left, CNN that's a little bit more towards the center so that they can lie and get away with it. And then there's going to be Fox News left of center. That's what I predict. So it's going to take a team effort, folks. That's it. Charles. Which Charles are you talking about? Annie. I'm just looking at what you guys are writing. Hello, Pamela Roth. All right, I think that's about it. Why don't we go to the Truth Zone and see if I can keep from screwing up this ending like I did the other day. I'm just waiting to see if there's any more trolls that I got to block one more troll. Come on, trolls. Let me have it. Oh, Charles Payne? I don't know. He got himself into a world of issues as well, it looks like. All right. Oh, somebody asked what's going on with Rico. Rico was having some gastrointestinal problems, took him to the doctor, did blood work, and everything was great with the exception of his liver values are all over the place. So, you know, he's 17 in a month now, 2 months. So it's to be expected he's going to have some things break down, but the liver's a little scary. So he's on a lot of heart medication. I don't know if that's what caused it. I don't know. What happened to Charles Payne? Caroline, you should Google that and look up exactly what happened. I don't want to go into it here, but yeah, he had some issues with another woman, I guess you could say. Look, it's Fox News. You know it's going to be sexually related. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone. All right, let me take a drink out of my dog daddy mug. Let's see, where is it? There you go. All right, so that was my speech about about the GoFundMe and all that stuff. I know I got to give that speech every now and then, but it's the truth, folks. I think we're on to something here. I don't know where this is going, to tell you the truth. I know where my vision says it should go, but the problem is it's going to take more than just me. And I have found now at 47 years old that in this day and age, when the outcome determines on more than just yourself, if it depends on me, I get things done. But when it depends on the we instead of the me, it could go either way. And more often than not, it doesn't go the way that I would like it to. That the mission planner, that the person that is able to, inside of me, that sees where things should go and focuses on that, doesn't always work that way. But that's where having a great team comes into effect. And I know people are thinking, this is an internet show. I just tuned in and I listened, and okay, it's got good information. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, folks, you have stumbled across something that, you know how everybody always says, well, those were the good old days back then. That's when we got into fights and we rock and rolled and we were shooting and looting. Listen, here's the facts. You have stumbled upon something that is not like Alex Jones. This isn't propaganda. This isn't mainstream media. The main focus on this show is twofold. Bring real experts on here so that you can understand the truth. And secondly, what's developing before our very eyes is the opportunity for you to unite, for you to have dialogue and get to know like-minded people, and for us to stand together. Because, folks, you may not realize it, but that time is here. It's not the good old days back then or in the future. It's now. And this is an opportunity that has never existed before in the history of mankind. That you can stand with people that are 1,000 miles away. Now think about that. You don't have to stand next to them and say, I have your back. You literally can stand next to them from 1,000 miles away and work together in coordinated fashion to defeat this communist, globalist movement that is taking over our country. Comfort and ego and materialism are destroying this country, but it's like a rake that's being pulled through a garden, splitting the dirt up. They're just raking it up and they're planting the seeds using the comfort and the lack of morals and ethics to plow the ground so they could plant the seeds of communism. That's what's happening. Visualize that, folks. You're not going to let that happen. You're going to come through like a super weeder and you're going to go straight after those weeds, but we have to do it together. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Old Rico's down there somewhere. This is The Experts, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, all 3 platforms. But remember, it's the team, it's the me, it's the we. The truth has arrived.